become that type of person that he is today?
You know, I think he kind of always had it in him. You know, you have heard me tell this story before, but he would always come to practice when he was in kindergarten and first grade, second grade. So he would watch film with me on weekends with the staff. He would come to all the film sessions. So that was sort of ingrained upon him for, you know, his middle school team, for his AAU teams as an elementary school aged athlete. He scored a lot more, but even then, you know, he moved it and made really good passes. But I think, you know, particularly when he went to play at West High for Coach Bergman, when he got there as a freshman, they were loaded up with talent, and he was the perfect fit for what they were trying to do. Get the ball to Wyatt, who was going to lead the state in scoring, and they had so many other talented players. David DeLeo, you know, Wally, Devontae Lane, I mean, Chike, I mean, they had so many good players. So he ran the offense for that team and engineered a state championship. So he's kind of always been that guy. And then his senior year, they moved him around a little bit more. He played a little bit more on the wing, and he guarded post guys, which I think gave me the confidence to do that last year when we started having injury situations that, you know, required us to kind of move him around. And it's great to have that kind of versatility from a guy who knows all the spots and understands how to win and understands that we have the best player in college basketball. Let's get him the ball, and we've got other great shooters, great players. And he's also been, I think, really good with our young guys. You know, obviously with his brother, he's been like that since they were little, but, you know, with Keegan, with Tony, with Aaron, with Joe Toussaint, really does a terrific job as a leader.
You know, as a follow-up to that, I think I remember seeing Connor at a career day when he was probably in 8th grade or 8th or 9th grade, and the thing he said he wanted to be was a coach. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's in his, that seems to be in his makeup? Do you see that as his future?
I think he would be a really good one. You know, I think he has prepared himself, you know, as a finance major. He's actually a double major now, finance and political science. You know, he had a 3.94 last semester. You know, he's on the dean's list. So he has the opportunity to enter the business world, I think, in a good place, perhaps go to law school. That's something he's talked about wanting to do. I think it will be hard for him to distance himself from the game. But again, you know, I think you could have a very successful career in another field as well. So we'll see. You know, maybe he would stay around as a graduate assistant, you know, kind of like Nicholas is doing now. We've had other guys, Kyle Denning, you know, did that, and kind of get a feel for it, maybe get his MBA. But it's nice to have options, I guess, and I think he would make a great coach. But to be truthful, I'm not sure his mother would encourage that career path.
Chad Leishko?
That was a funny ending there. This is your, statistically, I know the sample size is growing. You're your best three-point shooting team at Iowa. How important, I guess, can you explain, is that to the way you run your offense when you've got a three-point shooting team like this?
Well, I think, you know, the more three-point weapons your team has, the harder you're going to be to guard, provided the group of individuals are unselfish and, you know, as Scott pointed out in the previous question, you know, team-oriented. When you have the best low-post player in college basketball, you want to throw it inside. You want to get him the ball. But he's equally effective at the three-point line, which creates opportunities for others to flash into the low post and post up or drive the ball into space that wouldn't be there if Luka was always there. So the other thing is when you have players coming off the bench who can also make threes. A lot of times you might have couple three-point shooters in your starting lineup, but you don't have three-point shooters coming off the bench, which changes everything when you go to your bench. But, you know, Patrick and Keegan and Jack can all hit threes. Joe has been a guy who could make some threes. He's not going to shoot as many, but he's capable, you know, and so are Aaron, Tony, and Chris. So, you know, I think moving forward, you know, I think most coaches are going to try to recruit as many three-point shooters as possible. When you think about the return on investment per possession, it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're going to the analytics side of things, you know, shooting threes, provided they're open shots and you've moved it and you've made the defense work and you don't constantly settle, because if you do that, you're never going to be in the bonus. So there's got to be a mixture there. But having multiple weapons and not having the other team be able to focus on one or two guys is really helpful.
Mark Emmert?
Yeah, Fran, this is the first game that we know of that may be affected by the COVID situation. I guess, how much information are you getting about what's going on in other teams, and do you feel like you're getting enough information?
Yeah, I mean, we don't get a lot of information about other teams unless we're getting ready to play them. So, you know, we were informed that there might be one or two guys out. There are. You know, hope they're doing well and getting better. But, you know, as it relates to, say, Penn State and Nebraska, I suspect, you know, Brad Floyd, our trainer, may know more, but, you know, we're not playing those guys for a while, so, you know, they're on pause and you know, probably expect them to be back off pause when we get ready to play them.
Mike Kloss, go ahead.
And regarding Michigan State, what do you think is the key to a program having sustained excellence like they've had over decades now?
Well, I think there's a variety of things. You know, Coach Izzo, you know, he's a Hall of Fame coach. That is a good place to start. But, you know, they've recruited well. I mean, they've had really good players. I think they play a style that is, I think, really good for the personnel that they have. They've always played fast, and they've always defended, and they compete hard. So, you know, you put a great coach and really good players and a really good system and a team that competes and understands how to play, you know, they're going to win a lot of games.
David Eicholt?
Yeah, Fran, whenever we talk to you guys about defense, you always talk about the team has to be so well connected on the defensive end of the floor. What's the formula for having a well-connected defense?
Well, first of all, you have to be committed to playing it, everybody that's out there. So if you have one guy who's sort of relaxing on defense to save his energy for offense, it won't work. We're a team that changes defenses, so that's critical. You know, what are we in? And let's make sure we're making appropriate slides. If we're in zone, if we're man, are we switching? Are we not switching? You know, are they running ball screen continuity? Are they running set plays? Are they just dribble, draw, and kick? You know, so it's a combination of factors that really is pretty simple. Is everybody down in a stance where they're supposed to be, competing defensively until we get the ball back?
Tom Kakert?
Hey, Fran, good afternoon. You guys are leading the country in assists per game and assist to turnover ratio. As a coach, how important is that to the success of a team, and how proud are you of your team to be number one in the country in that category?
You're very proud, but I think, you know, if you were to ask all of our guys, they would sort of say, we expect that of ourselves. It helps when you're throwing the ball to Luka, but we got other guys making shots too, and he's passing the ball really well. You know, he's really handled the double team. He's finding guys, and we don't have a selfish group. Taking contested shots. We're taking open shots as a result of the fact that we move it and we have individuals to find guys and are willing passers. So I think any coach would want to have those two stats that you're referring to, and it typically leads to way more wins than losses.
Scott Document.
Yeah, Fran, along those lines, maybe if there's one component, one intangible that your team seems to possess now that very few teams do is just patience in the passing, and that's being able to just wait that fraction of a second for things to open or to look. Is that specific to experience, unselfishness, everything? How do you quantify that as being kind of a positive quality in that part of your game?
I think it's a good point because, especially when you have a guy like Luka on your team, teams are going to be working hard to stop him. So if you are impatient and you move it before you give him a chance or before you give him a look, same thing with our shooters. You got to let it develop. You got to let it happen. You got to be properly spaced. You might have to pivot. You might have to take a dribble or two to get a better angle. And I think that does come with one of the things you mentioned was experience. We say we got a veteran club. Well, veteran clubs don't panic. You're going to see tremendous heat from Michigan State. They're going to be up in your space, and a lot of times that forces you to move it maybe sooner than you want to. But you got to wait, and you got to get in a triple threat, or it's a one dribble kick, or you catch it and move it right away, or you go in and out, skip it to the other side, back in, back out. And it's a collective understanding of being patient and understanding what plays were called. Are we in motion? Are we in sets? Are we in a continuity offense? And consistently move the ball with a purpose while people are cutting and screening and posting with a purpose.
All right, we have another question from Mark Emmert. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Fran, I wanted to ask you about Jordan, now that you've had him for 5 years. Obviously, he's always carried himself with a great deal of confidence, but where have you seen him improve the most in his time here, just in terms of his skill development?
Yeah, to me, he's kind of always been the same way. He's incredibly confident. He plays the game with a keen understanding of what's necessary. He plays the game with a swag that you need. He's always been a great shooter. He gets our break and what we're trying to run, and he gets time and score situations. So I don't know that there's been a huge change in him. He's kind of always been, he was that way in high school. He's that way here. He was that way when he was a young player. You think back, and I mentioned it, when we played Maryland. I mean, the performance he had at Maryland when they were honoring their national championship team, and it was a packed house. It was as loud as any building I've ever been in, and he drops 8 threes and loads Tyler Cook up on his way to 27, and he had only played about 14 or 15 college games. I mean, that's what he does. So I haven't seen a big difference, and I think what makes him special is that he's always been consistent that way.
All right, one final question from Scott Document for Coach. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, Fran, when you were at Rutgers and Connor was injured early and, probably killed him to admit that he probably couldn't play, can you see how difficult it was for him? And then conversely, at the very last seconds when he came back in, how did he what did he tell you that he could do that enabled him to come in for you?
Well, I think the great thing about that day, once we knew he wasn't going to get back in there, all right, who's going to step up? Keegan stepped up in a big way. Patrick, Tony, and Aaron, and that was special. But, and you guys have been in the buildings. There's nobody there. So there's a real sense of team and camaraderie and support of one another. So Connor was able to contribute by grabbing guys during timeouts, talking to them during timeouts, encouraging them. And then when the last play happened, I said this before, it wasn't even a thought of mine that I was going to put him in because, when a trainer tells you can't go, you can't go. But, the coaches and the players that coaches put Connor in, he doesn't have to move, he can inbound the ball, and then they're going to foul right away. We can take them out, which is what we did. And I asked him, I said, can you do? He said, yeah, I got it. And you know, the guys worked hard to get open. We got the ball in. We got fouled, and now they have to go to length of the floor to beat us.
As far as self-awareness, I'm sorry, Steve, to interrupt. As far as self-awareness goes, he seems to be off the charts in that, where he doesn't hunt for shots. He looks for shots for everybody else. And if he's the best one on the floor, that's great. If anybody else is, that's even better. You know, how different is that to have somebody so self-aware on the floor of his strengths, maybe his weaknesses, but then everybody else's strengths and weaknesses on probably both teams?
Yeah, you know, it's absolutely critical that you have players that understand that concept that you're referring to. You know, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and how can I help my teammates be the best that they can be? And that comes with being patient, understanding the offense inside and out, understanding how to play more than one position, understanding time and score, home versus road, the scouting report, the adjustments we make throughout the course of the game, and truly understanding what are we trying to accomplish when we come out of a timeout, what are we trying to accomplish coming down the stretch, and the impact that has on, you know, settling everybody else down is crucial to a team's success over the course of 40 minutes.
Common characteristics that you see of Izzo's teams, and does this one kind of fit that same mold?
You know, I think you know what you're getting from Michigan State when you play them. You know, they're going to be one of the most physical teams, one of the most aggressive teams, a team that always pushes it in transition, and just, you know, a team that prides himself on being the tougher team and winning the war on the board. So, you know, we know, you know, going into this game, you know, we need to be able to rebound. We need to be able to be tough and work through the physicality.
Chad Leistko.
Hey, Luka, I know you worked a lot on your three-pointer in the offseason. I guess just how proud of you are you that you're at like 49% right now from three, and what changed, I guess, from last season?
You know, I think I just continue to work on my consistency and my confidence, you know, just getting a lot of reps up. And, you know, I think, you know, last year there were stretches where I shot the ball at a really, really high level, and then I had some games where I didn't shoot it as well. So, you know, I'm just trying to be more consistent. And, you know, I'm definitely happy with where it's at, but I wanted to continue to go up, and I want to continue to, you know, keep making shots and raise it even more.
Tom Kakert.
Hey, Luka, how much better of a passer are you this year? It seems like even just during the season, you've kind of gotten a better feel for the double teams. And how's that evolved?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think, you know, that's something that, you know, the whole coaching staff has been working with me, you know, a lot, you know, ever since, you know, kind of last year when I really started to, you know, get double teamed at this level. You know, I think, you know, in the off season I was watching a ton of film, you know, of last year and looking at different spots where I could attack the double team better. And that's kind of, you know, translated to during in season. You know, every game, you know, there's clips about, you know, me handling the double team, you know, when I can find guys, when I can go for myself. So I've just, you know, grown to be better and better at it. You know, I've worked on it a lot in practice. And, you know, when you're getting double teams, you know, every single day, you know, whether it's in pickup in the off season, you know, in practice, you know, in games, you know, you get better with it through experience. And, you know, I've been getting doubled a lot. So I'm definitely learning how to be better with it, and I'm going to continue to be better, you know, as we continue to go forward.
Mark Emmert.
Yeah, Luka, you've played with Jordan Bohannon for 4 years now. I guess, is this the best you've ever seen him play this recent stretch? And if so, what's he doing exceptionally well right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen, you know, Jordan have some, you know, unreal moments, and he's definitely, you know, playing at that level, if not better, right now. And it's great to see. You know, we all know that he's that type of player. But, you know, even, you know, my sophomore year, some of the shots he would hit, you know, when we played Indiana at home or Northwestern, I was just, you know, amazed. And so it's been a pleasure to play with a guy like that, and I look forward to continuing to, you know, play with him and just, you know, make some memories.
Grant Becker.
Luka, I think over the years, you know, we've seen this Michigan State team take a couple lumps early, in the season, and then kind of they get rolling once Big Ten play comes around. It's a little bit uncharacteristic to see them lose 4 out of 6 at a point like this, kind of after Christmas. Do you think this is just another Michigan State team that'll get better as the season goes along, or are they a little bit behind some of the Michigan State teams you've seen in your time at Iowa?
Honestly, I think this Michigan State team is really, really, really good. I've watched them all year. I think they've had some tough losses. You lose a game at the buzzer to Purdue. A game they kind of won, and it just kind of slipped out of their hands. I don't think it's, I think this team is going to be really, really good for the rest of the year. And they can beat anybody in our league, and I have full confidence in that. And you can say that about a lot of teams in the Big Ten, but I definitely think this Michigan State team is very good. And so I'm excited for the matchup, and we know what this Michigan State team is. People may say otherwise, but we know this team is a great team, and they're going to be good for the rest of the year.
David Eichholt.
Luka, when we ask you guys about defense, you always talk about how connected, how important it is to be connected. But what makes a well-connected defense? What kind of factors go into that, and what are some of the most important things to being a well-connected defense?
I think first, everybody has to be, bought in to the defensive end. I think everybody has to be playing hard. I think everybody has to be communicating and talking. When we're talking and we're aware of what's going on, away from the ball, when we're opposite, whatever the case may be, if you're aware and you're talking, that makes it a connected group, and we need to be that. For every game for the rest of this year, but especially this game with some of the guys they have, we have to be really connected.
Scott Dochterman.
Yeah, Luka, you guys lead the country in assists and assist-to-turnover ratio, and those are everybody's stats, from those who score to those who pass to spacing the floor and everything. How much do you guys take pride in that? Not only being able to score in your case most of the time, but just for everybody being able to share in those types of statistics that are so vital to winning.
We're an extremely unselfish group, and I've said that a lot over the course of me being here. But we're a very unselfish group. We move the ball around. We're trying to get the best shot down every single time. We're not really an ISO team. It's not like guys are just going and getting theirs. We're moving the ball around and finding the best shot every single time down. And we have some guys that can make plays in ISO situations. But for the most part, we're a team that moves the ball, pushes the ball in transition, and like I said, our purpose on offense is to get the best shot possible. And sometimes that's me. Sometimes I'm getting doubled and I got to throw it out. Sometimes it's just one more to the corner or whatever the case may be. We're finding the best shot. So, for us, we expect to be a great passing team, and we've been that way. Even my freshman year, we were in the tops of the countries in those kind of statistics in terms of assist to turnover and assists on field goals and all of that. But I think. Our defense has improved tremendously since then, but our offense has also improved.
Time for just a couple more here with Luka. Mike Kloss, go ahead.
Hi, Luka. I understand, and if I heard this wrong, correct me, and we'll move on. But the upheaval in Washington last week prevented family members from seeing you out there. Is that true? And do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. That's true. My mother got tested for COVID, so she could come see me, and obviously there was a curfew in my area and in DC, so she couldn't come out to see me. But obviously, that wasn't the most upsetting thing about that day. What was happening in our country was a lot worse, and so I understood. Obviously it sucked, but there were worse things going on, and I was just thankful we were able to play and get through that. But it was definitely upsetting, and you never want to see that. Especially in my city, I never want to see something like that, and that's upsetting. And obviously not being able to see my family is also upsetting. But it's just how it is. With COVID, it wouldn't have been even the same of seeing my family. I'd be wearing a mask and they'd be 6 feet away, and so it's not the same either way. But we all understand what it is to play in a pandemic.
And our final question for Luka. Go ahead, Chad.
And following up on the three-point conversation, you guys' percentage as a team is significantly up over last year. What do you attribute that to?
I think ball movement. I think we move the ball really well. I think it helps when you get one of the best shooters of all time, in Iowa history to come back. So I think that definitely helps. And I think moving the ball and just being an unselfish group. I think we're a really good shooting team, and we've known that for a while. And last year we had at certain points with injuries or whatever, we didn't have as many shooters on the floor as we do this year. And so it's really nice to have those guys, back, and and everybody's confident. I think Coach has done such a great job of instilling confidence in his shooters. If you're missing, Coach is going to keep coming to you, and he knows that it's going to drop. So that's a big thing. Is when you're playing on offense and you have the green light to shoot an open jumper, your confidence is so different to that shot. Some guys, in other programs may be afraid to take shots or whatever, but the way Coach McCaffery coaches us, it allows us to have confidence every time we step into a jumper, because he knows we all put the work in the off season. So, I'm glad everyone on this team has been able to knock them down, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
All right, thank you.
Switching there, or what happened exactly?
I just kept playing basketball. I think that's been my mindset, going forward this entire season. I kind of realized that I'm not going to be 100%, physically, mentally, right from the get-go off this season, because I really haven't played, a healthy game in a year and a half, 2 years. So I knew I wasn't just going to be able to be off and running to start. I felt like I was playing okay to start the season, and I just kept playing, and shot wasn't falling, shots were going in and out, and just wasn't shooting as good as I knew I could. So I just kept, playing and kept having confidence like I always do. And, everything I've been doing this past year and a half, 2 years, finally is starting to pay off.
Chad Leistikow.
Hey, Jordan. I know it's the sleeve, right? Anyway.
Definitely the sleeve. Definitely the sleeve.
Can you kind of describe what happens on the floor when you guys have, basically 4 or 5 3-point shooters? Luka, yourself, CJ, Joe are a great starting point, obviously, for defenses, and what challenges that presents.
Yeah, I mean, when you have pretty much anyone on the floor that can, hit the open three, it just creates so much room for everyone to drive the paint, and Luka's able to have single coverage half the time, and sometimes last year I think that was kind of a struggling point towards the end of the year, because people kept double teaming Luka, and there's just a lot of clogging in the paint. And I think this year we're starting to learn more about spacing, and Luka's doing a really good job about finding people. But when you have multiple guys shooting 40+% from 3-point range on top of Luka, able to step out and shoot that high number out on the 3-point line, I think that just creates so much problems for the other team to try to guard us. And we don't really we run sets, but we really just run motion, and you can't really scout when you are playing against a motion offense. So I think that's what's been pretty special about us, is we're locked into this offense and willing to keep passing up good shots to get great shots.
Mark Hammer.
And Jordan, I wanted to ask you about the kind of the edge that you play with. Does that come from being the youngest of the Bohannon boys, being the shortest, or how much of that is, a product of your upbringing?
Yeah, that's definitely a product of my upbringing for sure. But I think what has been the most thing for me is just the amount of people that have doubted me my entire life. And when you have 3 older brothers play Division I basketball, they're like, all right, maybe the 4th one's not going to be as good. And I mean, there definitely were people saying that I could be up to that potential that my brothers are playing at. But even when I got to Iowa, there's so many people that are doubting me that there's no reason why he should be on the court. And I feel like I proved myself when I first got here, and then it's just been an uphill battle ever since from my mindset. Just because every time I step on the floor, I want to continue to prove myself. And maybe I got away from that a little bit when I was, earlier this season, just trying to get my feet back under me. But I feel like I kind of gathered that mentality again, and realized that I still have a lot to prove, and I still expect myself to be the best point guard in the country when I step foot out there, and I feel like I am.
Tom Kakert.
Jordan, you jumped over Mike Zell and Dean Oliver after last game. You got Andre Woolridge in your sights. You probably got Jeff Horner in your sights. What is that? We've talked a lot about the 3-point stuff, but what does that assist march mean to you?
I've always said this, so the assist means more to me than the three-point record. Even the Big Ten three-point record, if I'm able to get to that assist record means more to me, just because that shows, how unselfish I've been able to, find open guys, and, I've had a lot of high assist numbers and a lot of great people that I play with that I got to give credit to, that, I'm loading them up and doing everything I can to, make sure they're getting open shots and getting their flow going. So the guys I'm passing, it's just even hard to even put into words. The guys that I've looked up to when I got here, guys that have meant so much to me, and how they've played for this university, and how much they've meant to this community and the city and the state. It's been a huge blessing for me, and I can't thank the guys enough for the guys that came before me and that helped me out to get my feet under me to make sure I can play at this level, and it's just a true blessing.
Fran Becker.
Jordan, I think when you compare this Michigan State team to the ones that you've seen in your time at Iowa, you have to go back to the team your freshman year that's had a stretch like this where they've lost 4 of 6. Do you think this is just a tough stretch and that this is just another Michigan State team that can go all the way in the tournament, or are they a little different than some of the Michigan State teams you've seen?
No, it's the same Michigan State team. If I were to guess, they'll probably be in the Final Four this year. You guys might think I'm crazy, but it's Coach Izzo, and they always find a way to get to the Final Four. I don't know the exact stat, but I'm pretty sure every 4 years there's been a Michigan State team in the Final Four. So that proves the ability that they're able to play at, the guys that Coach Izzo recruits, and they always pride themselves in being the tougher team, and we have to understand that no matter what they've done in the last couple games and who they've lost to, who they've beaten, that it doesn't matter. That I haven't beaten Michigan State since I've been here. We've been close a bunch of years and let us slip away. So that's definitely on my mind, and we can't take what they've done and what they haven't done for granted, and just have to play up to our potential.
All right, our last question for Jordan comes from Mike Floss. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Jordan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm all right. The players you just alluded to that you've passed on that chart, who in particular were heroes of yours, and why?
Jeff Horner is a guy I can't even put into words. Watching him play and him pulling up from the logo half court. He did it a bunch of times. How he was able to handle the team and his leadership on the court. It's just someone that I've always kind of model my game after. I've obviously taken a lot of different facets from different guys across, my generation of playing basketball, but he's one guy that I've always looked up to. Same thing with Matt Gaines, passing him a three-point record, chasing Jeff Horner again for that three-point record. It's just, there's so many. Jeff Horner was just someone that I always looked up to, and his game just felt like I could model after when I got to Iowa, and everything that he did for this state, on and off the court, and everything he continues to do to represent his alum school. So it's like I said, it's a huge blessing for myself to even give consideration to with these names, and I'm gonna do everything I can to keep helping my team win, but also got to be really thankful for the guys that I'm passing on these records.
All right, thank you, Jordan.
Iowa.
I feel like it's something that started, long ago in growing up. I've always just kind of tried to pride myself in being somebody who makes the right play regardless of the situation, regardless of who's around me. And I think that, like you alluded to with Bergie, I came in as a freshman and I was on a really good team, had a lot of guys around me. Always tried to make the right play, and then I tried to carry that through high school and on now into college as well. So it's just been kind of my game, and I try to pride myself in it.
Looks like you play with a lot of patience out there. I think I saw a couple of times, even on Sunday, where you maybe made a pass that was better simply because you waited a fraction of a second longer than maybe you would have a couple of years ago, and maybe a lot of other players would make. How do you see the floor, and how does that help you make those passes at the right time?
Yeah, a huge thing, as a passer is waiting for things to develop. There's always action, there's always movement, and sometimes things just take longer to open up. And so, there was times like one of the passes I made to Weezy along the baseline. I knew like the whole time he was going to be open. I just had to wait because I just thought like at first if I threw a lob pass that Mashburn might have been able to get there or Robbins would have been able to get there. And so I kind of just had to wait. And Coach Diller always says, like, wait a moment for the right moment. And so that's kind of like something, you know, I feel like I try to do, just, you know, let plays develop, because, you know, the guys are going to keep working. You know, people are cut, you know, Weezy, CJ, great cutters. You know, they're always moving around, and Luka's always going to be fighting for better post position. So the more I can wait and, you know, read what's going to happen, the more people are going to be open and the better shots, you know, be able to get them.
Mark Emmer?
Yeah, Connor, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about Jordan. First of all, do you remember the first time you ever played in a game against him, and what did you think of him?
The first time I ever played Jordan, we were actually on the same team, I believe, and it was with Barnstormers in like 6th grade. And he, I mean, you know, back then he was still confident, a shooter. You know, he'd pull up and transition, you know, shoot threes, you know, even when we were younger. And he was somebody who, you know, we played in the backcourt together, I believe. I could be mistaken, but I think we're in Vegas playing, and I just remember, you know, us together were the backcourt, and it was just a fun time, and I felt like we played well together, and I think we still do.
Did you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him. I was playing up, so like I didn't really know him that well. I didn't really know any of them, but I mean, they were always nice to me, and you know, it was a good group playing. And then you know, as we grew up, obviously we all kind of knew each other. We never really hung out, but we all knew of each other, played against each other, and had a relationship of respect and also, you know, competitive nature that we carried against each other.
Is this the best stretch of his play that you ever seen him have, these last 4 games, and if so, why?
I would say like these last 4, but I would also have to say like the stretch 2 years ago he had when he hit the game winner and then beat Indiana by himself twice and beat somebody else. It was like 5 in a row. He just hit big shot after big shot. It would be between these two. It was just been, you know, it's fun to see when he's hooping like this, and it just creates a whole nother level to our offense. You know, it brings another aspect of the teams, you know, it's hard to game plan against.
David Eichel, go ahead.
Yeah, Connor, 2 questions for you. One, what did you think of Kenny Murray's nickname for you that he tweeted to you? I think it was cashier or something like that.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I thought it was funny. Yeah, I never heard that one before, but you know, Kenny, I've known him for a while. Like he's always coached against us, and I got a kick out of it. I thought it was funny. I feel like you can't really embrace any nicknames for yourself. I feel like that's kind of weird. But if people start calling me that, I'll definitely wear that one.
And on a more serious kind of note, you know, it was kind of funny to me at the beginning of the season when Jordan, you know, went through a struggle. People were citing that maybe it's because too much attention was being paid to his podcast or anything like that. And I guess, you know, for Jordan, it feels like part of his mental health. He gets to release himself within the podcast, and with all the uncertainty this season. Do you have any comments about just what it's like to be a student athlete and just kind of maintaining your mental health throughout the pandemic and all this other stuff? And do you think that there's a very big misconception when it comes to the public about it can't always be basketball? There needs to be like some release that you have.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point you make. It's this entire season so far it's been tough in the sense that, you know, when everybody else came back to school, you know, it's like they were still able to do stuff with friends, you know, in groups, and you know, whether or not they were supposed to, like, you know, go out to eat, you know, go to restaurants, stuff like that. We have not really done that. You know, we've kind of been keeping to ourselves with each other. You know, we're not going out to eat. We're not, you know, going to, you know, hang out in huge groups. We're not going to parties. We're not doing any of that. You know, that's kind of been our thing this entire year. And I think, you know, like you said, with Jordan being able to release himself a little bit within that podcast, I think we all have kind of needed to find something that we do together that's fun and can, you know, just get away from the game, you know, whether it's, you know, Fortnite or, you know, any type of video game, you know, watching Netflix, hanging out with each other, you know, playing a game, you know, anything that kind of gets your mind off of basketball and just gets you to relax is important, because through a grueling season, you know, there's a lot of pressure that can be put on by, you know, fans, you know, just people, you know, around the program, surrounding the league, whatever. And so, having an outlet as a player on the team, it's really important. And I think that, Jordan having his podcast, like people saying like, too much focus on that. No, that's not a thing. I think everybody needs something that they can go to during a season, especially when we're not getting out and being able to, do things with other people. Everybody's going to need something.
Time for a couple more here. Tom Kinker.
Connor, you seem like a kind of a natural to get into coaching. We asked the head coach earlier if perhaps you would get into coaching, and he said Connor's mother might object to it. Have you had discussions with Mom about this? Has she objected?
She's definitely objective, I would say. She's not a huge fan of the idea. And that's kind of been like, I feel like that's why she's always put such a stress on my schoolwork, so that I didn't have to get into coaching. But I don't know. I mean, if it's something I want to do, she'll support me. It's just I feel like it's kind of like a running joke at this point, just of her saying like, no, you're not doing it. It brings too much stress to me. It would bring too much stress to your future wife, that kind of thing. But I think that she would definitely be supportive if it ended up being something I would want to do.
All right, now our final question from Scott Document. Go ahead, Scott.
I wanted to ask you about your self-awareness, because to have a team like this, you have to have selfless people who know their roles and take them to the highest level possible. And that could be Luka Garza scoring 1,000 points a game, or whatever. But also you getting 10 assists and no turnovers, but maybe only taking a couple of shots. Was that a difficult transition at all for you to not be the key scorer, but to be the key facilitator? Or is that something that you just saw naturally, organically through your game?
I think that's a good question. I think it's something that did kind of come naturally, because as I kind of alluded to earlier, I've always been someone who tries to make the right play. And when I'm playing with the people that I have around me, it just makes my job easier. And I think that when you step into a role, every team needs roles. Every championship team needs roles, and you need to play within your role, or else chemistry will be broken and things break down. And so, me being somebody who knows, I'm not going to come into a game and shoot 15 shots. I'm just not. That's not my thing. But I'll try to get Weezy 15 shots. I'll try to get Luka 15 shots. That's the way that I need to play, and that's my role. And I know I'm not going to turn the ball over. I got to make smart plays on the offensive and defensive end. I got to know where I got to go at all times. I'm not going to get in the way of somebody else, and read defenses. If they're playing Luka in the front, flash every time. There's just automatic things that I need to be able to do, that role players need to be able to do to make really good offenses work. And I think that LeBron said it best. He said, if you don't want to roll, play tennis or play golf. That's like that. Those are pretty much going to be your sports. Every team needs role players, and I've kind of tried to embrace that. And I think we have a lot of other guys that have done the same, and that's what makes our offense flow, and it's what makes us, our team chemistry so great.
Seems like you have no problem sticking up for your teammates as well. I mean, you will get in somebody's face if they do something to one of your players.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it'll never be, I'm never like going to try to start anything, but we're none of us on our team, nobody's backing down either. That's never going to be something that we're about. If anybody wants to start something, we're all right there for each other. It'd be the same if somebody came at me. I have no doubt that Luka, CJ, anybody would come and step right to them with my back, as I would do for them. And that's kind of got to be. I feel like with all great teams, you need that type of attitude. You need guys that are going to step up for each other and always, have each other's back. And if you get into something, you know that as well.
All right, thanks, Connor.